Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into Game Over Toronto following yet another Leafs win 3-2 over the Utah Hockey Club, or almost 4-2. William Nylander hits the empty net just a second after the final buzzer sounds, but alas, the Leafs win, so it doesn't much matter. And that was another clean, relatively clean performance by the Leafs. I mean, not too much to complain about, not too much to write home about. So, I mean, I don't know if anyone has any complaints. If you do, you can leave it down in the chat. I think that the Leafs are playing the exact brand of hockey we've seen them play for the last month or so. And against a young Utah team, a talented Utah team, but a young Utah team, this defensive system really got to them. You could see that throughout the game. Both of Utah's goals came off of deflections, off of point shots, which is fine. You know, like those kind of goals are going to happen occasionally. You're not going to get a shutout every game, unfortunately, for Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz. But overall, the Leafs did a really good job of clogging the middle of the ice. So I don't really have too many defensive complaints. In the second period, the Stars took over, which is what I'll talk about momentarily. But welcome in to the program. How is everyone doing? How's everyone doing on this rare Sunday edition of Game Over Toronto? Kaya from Game Over Vancouver in the chat. I forgot Reeves was still suspended, and I chose him to score for Tim's picks. I forgot about Tim's picks. I'm not gonna lie. I completely forgot about that. I liked it better when they used to give you more points, and you could just pick like Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews to score every night, and it was great. I kind of forgot about that though. I should get back on that. But Leafs. I mean, look, this first segment I'll mostly talk about how the Leafs won that game, and it comes really down to that second period. But I do want to highlight, as a whole, the team played very good defensively, as we've come to expect. I think this is probably the best the team defense has looked probably in the Matthews era, in the regular season at least. Like obviously in the playoffs, we see the Leafs shut it down and kind of play this low event hockey, but this is the first time we've seen an extended stretch that they've done this in the regular season. And I've talked with Dominic and Lauren about this over the course of the past month as the systems have really solidified. But the Leafs are really playing some prime Barry Trotz New York Islanders hockey right now. You know what I mean? Like it is just it's such low event hockey, which I mean, granted, 7 of the starting forwards are out. If over 50% of your forwards are out, yeah, you want to shut it down a little bit and play some lower event hockey. Rely on your strengths, but I mean, it's been very interesting. I'm not going to say fun to watch because let's be honest, we've seen more entertaining Leafs games. This one had some fun moments for sure, but the Leafs are playing effective. They're playing winning hockey, and you know what? I can excuse a little bit of boredom here and there if the Leafs win. And this is 4 in a row now. The Leafs are first in the Atlantic by multiple games. They got a game coming up on Wednesday against Florida, Saturday against Tampa. If you take care of business in those games, you're going to have a nice lead on the Atlantic through American Thanksgiving, which I don't think anyone would have guessed that so far. But the Atlantic has been incredibly mid. It's been pretty mediocre so far this season. So there's no reason the Leafs can't win it. There's no reason they can't. Luke in the chat, love to see you, Luke. I'm doing well. Had that booked as a scheduled loss. Is this team different? We'll see. It's tough to say whether this team is different or not. I will say that Utah is the exact type of team that in the past could have taken advantage of the Leafs just because they have a lot of young scorers, a lot of young offensive talent that, the Leafs over the years have been susceptible to other teams' young stars breaking out against them, if you will. Since Kaya's in the chat, I'll throw back to Brock Besser's rookie season when there was a Hockey Night in Canada game in Toronto where Besser scored. I think he scored twice and then he hit the crossbar in overtime on what looked like it was going to be the game winner. Ended up going to a shootout. But yeah, the Leafs have been susceptible to the other team's young scores. Not the case tonight. But for now, what I want to focus on in this first period is I want to focus on the Leafs stars, the Leafs star talent that has already broken out. Because this is a game, these are the games that you pay William Nylander and more specifically Mitch Marner to take over. And they took over in a way that obviously they scored the 3 goals and they are responsible for the Leafs scoring the 3 goals and winning the game. But it's deeper than that to me. It goes beyond just the goals. It's how the goals came to be. It's what they did outside of those goals that I think really made this a special effort from those two, the 2 highest paid Leafs that were on the ice tonight, as Austin Matthews continues to rehab an injury that's, I think he's back from Germany now, so we'll see if he plays on Wednesday. If not, he'll come back at some point. I'm not too worried. The Leafs are winning, so is what it is. But William Nylander, Mitch Marner. I'll talk about Nylander first because I don't have quite as much to say about him. But he was an animal. In the first period, he looked really, really confident. He looked really loose. You saw him trying these spinning no-look passes, just feathering things to the slot, just experimenting, trying things, which, he's an elite player. He's going to make those plays every now and again, and it's worth a shot. We saw him set up Fraser Minton last Wednesday for his first NHL goal off of a William Nylander excellent backhand feed pass to the slot. And, those are the type of plays Nylander was trying to make all night. He did have, there was a funny moment. I think it was it Minton or Lorentz or someone was, coming to the, it's Holmberg. Holmberg is in the corner. He tries to get to the net, and Nylander's just casually skating to the net. He's so programmed to go to the net because that's where you score goals that he ended up accidentally kicking Holmberg's stick and completely getting in his way and ruining a shot attempt. I thought that was funny. But obviously the breakaway goal is what everyone's going to focus on, and it's a spectacular play because it's not a traditional William Nylander goal, if you will. It's just hustle. It's pure hustle. William Nylander lines up at center, takes the face off. The puck goes back to the point. Logan Cooley gets his stick on it. And Logan Cooley, left-handed player on the left side of the ice for him. He's shielding the puck to the boards. Nylander goes around Cooley's body, reaches back around, stick lift, outworks him, steals the puck, and just takes off. Flying down the ice, ends up scoring on a backhander that goes between the legs of Vejmelka. And, William Nylander's breakaway playbook has been well documented by this point in his career. He has 2 moves. He either shoots it or just comes and shoots a 5-hole, or he fakes and goes to the backhand and either goes 5-hole or lifts it on the blocker side. Obviously, it's nice to score. If he didn't score, I would have laughed about how predictable his breakaways are. I could still laugh about it, but he scored. So who cares, right? And, that play came off the back of a Mitch Marner goal that, really set the tone for the second period, in which the Leafs, that second period, asterisk because heavy emphasis on the power play. The Leafs had 4 power play attempts, 5 in the second period, one of which was an extended 5-on-3. That being said, it was a shooting gallery in the second period. I think, I wrote this down in my notes. I don't take many notes, but the ones I do, because I want to remember this. The Leafs' second period. Now, this is all situations, so again, heavy emphasis on the power play here. But in the second period, the Toronto Maple Leafs had 3.58 expected goals, 13 high danger chances on 38 total shot attempts. 3.58 expected goals. That's what most teams get in a game. That's an average game. You expect throughout the course of the game, the quality of your chances will add up to about 3 to 4 goals a game, expected goals a game. The Leafs got that in 1 period. Now, in the first period, they had 0.8. In the third period, I didn't check, but I imagine it's under 1 as well. But that adds up because you add a dominant expected goals in the second period, and the Leafs probably had 5 expected goals in this game. Wouldn't shock me. Would not shock me at all. So again, the power play is a big part of this. But if you want to flash back, harken back to the start of the year, these are the kind of games the Leafs would lose because of their power play, where we'd be screaming at the TV. We'd come on this show and scream about it after, like, this damn power play. The Leafs can't get a power play goal to save their lives. It's terrible. It's formulaic. It's basic. It's bland. It's just terrible. Not tonight. They scored 1 power play goal that was a bit of a funny one, but the Leafs were just shooting the lights out. The Leafs hit like 4 or 5 posts in this game. I think they had 2 within like 5 seconds of each other on one of the power plays. But if we look at the goal, Mitch Marner, this was his effort play. I talked about William Nylander, how that breakaway goal, yeah, it's a breakaway goal, and that's all well and dandy, but it was an effort play. It was an effort play that got him that goal. Mitch Marner on this power play was dancing. He was everywhere. William Nylander takes a shot, rings around. Mitch Marner hustles, skates his tail off, gets to the boards, keeps the puck in the zone. Defender on his back makes a play, gives it to Nylander, who tries to hit Minton in front. Doesn't quite connect. Now Marner, I believe he was trying to give it back to Minton in front. Ends up going off Vejmelka and in. You can call that a lucky bounce. You can say that's a savvy play from a superstar that's banking the puck off an unsuspecting goalie. Great play. I kind of fall into the category of Marner got rewarded for how hard he worked earlier in the shift. That's how I choose to look at it. This was, in most facets, a Mitch Marner game. Similar to the Edmonton game a little while ago, this was the kind of game you pay Mitch Marner to win. Mitch Marner elevated his play tonight. William Nylander elevated his play tonight, and the Leafs won. Now, John Tavares also had a pretty nice game, had an absolutely gorgeous pass to Marner on that breakaway. That was probably, I think Mike Johnson said it was probably a 120-foot pass. From the Leafs goal line to the Utah blue line, perfect on the tape of Mitch Marner, catches him in stride, allows him to go in on that breakaway and snipe high glove, because Vejmelka's a righty, high glove on Vejmelka to tie the game at 1 at the time, and then the Leafs end up riding that momentum for the next several minutes. And, look, that McMahon-Tavares-Marner line, keep it. Keep it, dude. When Austin Matthews comes back, there is no part of me that wants to see Mitch Marner on Austin Matthews' line, because look how good Marner is without him. I shouldn't say without him necessarily, but not on his line. Obviously the Leafs are without Matthews right now. Marner looks so much better when he's the guy on the line, right? How many times over the years, you could chime in the chat, how many times over the years have we watched Mitch Marner pass up on a play because he was trying to pass to Austin Matthews? Sometimes that works. Others it doesn't. And I don't want to see the version of Mitch Marner that is trying to get Austin Matthews a milestone. Now, I love when Austin Matthews scores 60 goals. We're all in on the race to 70. I sure like Mitch Marner a lot better when he's not a part of that. And, we have, as Leaf fans, we have our gripes with Marner in the playoffs, right? We have our complaints, we have our grievances, and they're justified grievances with Mitch Marner in the playoffs. We've said it. Over the years, Leaf fans have said this countless times. We've certainly said this on this show. If that version of Mitch Marner that we saw tonight ever showed up in a 7-game playoff series, the Leafs are laughing. With how good the Leafs have been defensively, with how good William Nylander is in the playoffs, this is what you want. He looks so good driving the play. It isn't surprising. He creates magic with his plays. And Luke hits the nail on the head. I'm going to go one step further. I've made this point before about what makes Mitch Marner great. A good Mitch Marner will attack open space, and he'll find teammates in open space, and generally does a good job of reading where the opposing team's skaters are relative to the puck and how the play is going to set up. He's a very anticipatory player. Very good at anticipating things. On the defensive end too, as Luke points out. But offensively specifically, he's very good at anticipating and reading what the opposing team is going to do in the defensive zone. And he uses that to, like, okay, there's a guy here, there's a guy here, there's a guy here. I know that this defender is going to be open for a shot or to continue the play, continue the cycle. Great Mitch Marner creates that open space, right? It's not just attacking open space, it's creating it for himself and others. It's doing something mesmerizing with the puck on his stick to, shake a defender and just buy himself a little bit of extra time. It's making a pass through three people to someone who's open on the other side, but there's traffic in between. You know what I mean? We're seeing great Mitch Marner. The last, how many games have Matthews missed? 8? Last 8 games, we've seen great Mitch Marner. And that's where Mitch Marner needs to be. And that's what he is, quite frankly, when he's not focusing on getting Austin Matthews his milestones. Mitch Marner is up here. When he's with Matthews, he's still good. He's still a very good player. He's probably a little bit more down here. But we don't need this. We need this. And that's what we've gotten from Marner recently. And for those who are listening on the podcast, I just mean an elevated level of play, which we've gotten. Now, obviously, that leads us into a different discussion that is the most divisive subject in Leafs Nation. But we'll get into that in a second. Before we start the second period here, just a reminder to, first of all, like and subscribe to Game Over, like the stream, subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Make sure you follow all of the Game Over Network channels and the Game Over Network hub. But specifically want to shout out Hyperdrive Hockey, which is the Game Over Network's flagship show. They do a great job over there. It's on the Game Over Network main channel. You can also find it wherever you get your podcasts. I know in recent weeks they've started a new segment on Fridays, which I think Sorry Not Sorry. Playing on us Canadians, how we say sorry all the time. And it's our debate segment where you present an argument that you're not sorry about. Like, sorry, not sorry. That's the whole, that's the gimmick. Anyways, go check out Hyperdrive Hockey. They do a great job on the Game Over Network, the main YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. Now let's enter into our second segment. It's time. It's time for us to all admit something. We have to come together. We have to come together. We have to admit something. None of us want Mitch Marner to go. I know. We all get mad about it after every playoff series. We all say, something has to change. We don't want Mitch Marner to go. The Leafs, I have been guilty of this. I said last summer, obviously not on this channel, but I've been vocal about the fact that I thought Mitch Marner should have potentially been traded last year after the playoff loss to Boston. I'm ready to raise my hand and say that would have been a mistake. You got to extend Mitch Marner. I'm ready to see it because at the end of the day, where would the Leafs be without him? Now, I will admit, the prospect of the cap jumping up to 96, 97, 98 million is not a driving force, but it is a significant factor that can't be ignored. If the cap was flat, sorry, can't afford you. The cap's going up. Tavares is off the books. You got to extend Nyes, but we are kind of working in the timeline that we thought we were getting before COVID. If you all will recall, when the Leafs extended Matthews and Nylander and Marner and sign Tavares, the whole "we can and we will" speech from Kyle Dubas. Ends up signing everyone. Then the world stopped. We expected the cap to go up 5, 10, 15, 20 million. Then it didn't. But now, in the post-COVID era, we are going to get there. Hockey-related revenues are up. They're higher than expected. The salary cap, as soon as 2026, 2027, could be over 100 million. So, if you extend Mitch Marner, let's say it's 12.5. Let's say it's an 8-year deal at 12.5. Now, next year, that might sting a little. The year after, it'll sting a little less. And as that deal ages, it'll look better. Now, some of you might hate that. And if you disagree that the Leafs should keep Mitch Marner, I would love to hear why. Feel free to chime in the chat. But I think they should keep him. I'm ready to raise my hand and say, I think the Maple Leafs should extend Mitch Marner. There is no reason to lose a player that can hit 100 points and hopefully will. He's on pace for like 111 now. Hopefully this is the year. And, if he does end up playing on Matthews' line, I'm sure that'll happen. Might be a bit more frustrating, but it'll happen. I don't know. All I know is this team would be worse without him. And since we've passed the window where you can trade him, the only other option is you lose him for nothing. And if I have to choose between losing Mitch Marner for nothing or extending him to a contract that might seem a little rich for now, but will age fine, I'm going to choose to keep the superstar. You can find depth players. As we have seen over the last week and a bit, the Leafs have 7 forwards out. The Toronto Marlies are basically the Leafs right now. And they're winning. They're on a 4-game win streak. Because guess what? The Leafs actually have some young players that are decent that are coming up. We all, Kyle Dubas, he has his flaws. But guys like Nikita Grabenkin, guys like Easton Cowan, they're helping. They're helping right now. That's 2 parts of your third line. Now, I know everyone's all hyped up about Alex Nylander. He was fine. He had a few good moments, a few shifty moments, almost had a goal. He was fine. Not someone that's going to be in the lineup when everyone's healthy, but for a game or two, sure. It's a fun story. But the Leafs have some young players in the system. They have depth. Filling out the bottom 2 lines is not a problem. I will say, need a third line center. That is the number 1 priority at the trade deadline, is get a third line center. Preferably not Nazem Kadri. For as much as I love Kadri, I do not want to have to overpay for him because the Flames are very hesitant to trade with the Leafs due to the Brad Treliving situation that happened in Calgary. I also don't want to be straddled with that contract for the next 3 years after this one. But center, if you can get, I don't know if you can wrangle Brock Nelson out of New York, out of Long Island. That'd be nice. Morgan Frost. I don't know. You need someone, though, because Max Domi is not your third line center. He's not. He's not good enough to be your third line center. He's not good enough to be your third line center. I think, unironically, he should be on the first line because he is a bit of a Matthews merchant. But hey, it works. I have been vocal about my stance on that the Leafs should have Nylander, Matthews, and Marner all on different lines. If it were up to me, it'd probably go Nyes, Matthews, Domi, McMahon, Pacioretty, Tavares, Marner, McMahon, trade acquisition, Nylander, 4th line, who cares? And then After, like, post penalty kill, Nylander jumps up with Matthews. After icings, Nylander jumps up with Matthews. Like, theoretically, you move Nylander around so that he gets, 18, 19 minutes a game still. But there's no reason for Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews to be on the same line. Like, for as much fun as it is and as many highlights as they produce, dare I say, Mike Babcock did one thing right. He was right about one thing. You have to spread the wealth. You have got to spread the wealth. Now, you could also try Nylander on Matthews' line permanently. I'm not the biggest fan of that because, as Sheldon Keefe has noted out throughout the years, they don't really play well together. It's more like you have two great players making plays on their own and they happen to be on the ice at the same time. It's not the level of cohesion that you want out of two $11 million, or, well, one $11.5 million player and a 13 point whatever. Now, it can work. We saw that in their rookie years, their second year, third year. We know that the Matthews-Nylander chemistry was a thing, can be a thing. I prefer Nylander to drive the third line and occasionally jump up on the top line. Because again, it's still fun. And, having two great players on the ice after an icing or after a penalty kill is fun. Just not for a whole game. I think the Leafs started to figure this out in the Boston series last year, especially when Matthews came back in Game 7. But, is what it is. We'll see what, and any and all combinations should be tried. It's a long season. Try things. This is the time to try and experiment with things so that if injuries come up, as they did in the playoffs last year, you have some contingency plans. You have an idea of what you want to do. But the key in this, right, for this discussion specifically, is Mitch Marner. I think the Leafs should keep him. Have him drive the Tavares line for this year. Figure out what you want to do with that long term. I don't know. That's not my job. That's an off-season problem. I'm not here to worry about other off-season problems aside from retaining the star talent. Superstar talent, Mitch Marner. Got to retain. Star talent, John Tavares and Matthew Knies. Figure it out. Now, Tavares taking the discount from $11 million to hopefully something under 5 would be great. If he's, I don't know. We'll figure that out. That's not important. Not important right now. But yeah, I think that's what I think about Mitch Marner. Again, would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Now, as we head into the third segment here, as you're going to see on screen, Apologies for that. I'm just going to take the merch off the screen. That's awkward. Can you hear me now? So I guess I'll restate that. Anyways, check out the merch. That was what I was saying for the most part. Wearing the skater hoodie now. Go check it out. The QR code was on the screen. GameOverNetwork.com. Go check out the merch. Apologies for that. Now, I will say, this game didn't really have that many big storylines. I do want to shout out Nikita Grabenkin, Fraser Minton, two young kids that look like in the future will be staples of the third line. Now, whether you want to trade Fraser Minton for someone now, you got to explore all your options, obviously. Grabenkin, I think, will be a very solid bottom six piece for the Leafs for the next several years. He's only 21. Seems like a great kid, honestly. If he can develop into something of a third line checking forward that also kills penalties, would love that. Would love that. Minton, long-term outlook as a third line center. I don't think he quite gets to the caliber of player for a second line role. In a pinch, obviously. And he's filled in adamantly for people that have been out of the lineup so far. I don't know. You're probably 2 years, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. I don't know. In the next 18 to 24 months, you hope that Minton becomes an NHL player, a mainstay NHL player, because you need the young talent to, elevate their game, their play, and kind of figure it out. Now, it's very reassuring to know that these players are capable in a pinch where 7 forwards that are usually in your lineup are out of it, and they've filled in adamantly. They've done great. Well, they've done good. They've done a good enough job to say, hey, this is not a rush, all right? You don't have to rush Austin Matthews back because guys like Fraser Minton have been fine. Now, if Minton and Grabenkin and, the cast of Marlies came in here and were terrible and the Leafs lost 5 in a row, yeah, Matthews would have been playing in this game. But because they've been fine, you can kind of slow the return for those players because it's not a concern. The Leafs are winning on the back of their defensive structure. You've won 4 in a row. You got a 3-point lead on the division. I would be totally fine with Matthews not playing Wednesday. If I would give Matthews the week. Come back Saturday, travel with the team to Florida, but don't play. Enjoy the weather down there because you got one of the weirdest schedule quirks of the season. The Leafs play 4 games in 16 days or something, right? And you've got the Florida trip. Now, usually at Tampa, at Florida. That's a back-to-back. That's a classic back-to-back. The Leafs play in Florida Wednesday, in Tampa on Saturday? I mean, okay. You're basically just giving the Leafs a free 2-day vacation in Florida. I won't complain. I'm sure the players won't complain. I mean, they might later in the season when they have 55 back-to-backs or whatever it was. It's like, I think we have like 13 back-to-backs, 14. So, is what it is. I would not rush Matthews back. I know Nyes was on the ice this morning. He's eligible to return Saturday. Wouldn't hate a world where both Matthews and Nyes return on Saturday. You keep Matthews out on Wednesday, bring him back on Saturday, and then you roll out 2/3 of your top line back in action. What a boost that would be, hey? Now, I don't know. We'll see. All the injuries mounting obviously is not ideal. Knock on wood. I don't have any wood to knock on. I'll knock on my desk. It's close enough. The defense has been relatively healthy. Now, you do have defensive depth. You have guys that can step in. Yanni Hakanpää doesn't play in this game. He's capable. He's fully capable. And you honestly probably expect him to be in the top 4 come playoff time. I think the pairing system that they had, it was Riley, Hakanpää, McCabe, Tanev, OEL, and Timmins. Whether it's Timmins or someone else, don't really care. Because OEL will drive that pair. But Hakanpää, I think, will be in the mix. But anyways, you have depth on defense. That's the point before I get too sidetracked. And you've been relatively healthy. So is what it is. The forward injuries suck, but defense has been healthy, and the defensive system has been great to help them win. We'll see as guys kind of like the tricky thing with the injuries up front is some of them are not short term. Matthews is coming back. Nyes will be back soon. Domi, no idea. I have no idea what's going on with Max Domi. Now, I've garnered a bit of a reputation for my stance on Max Domi as a player, understandably. I have some rather blunt opinions of Max Domi. That being said, I would still like him to see him healthy. Yarncroke, I don't even know if we're going to see Calle Yarncroke until past the trade deadline. I think Calle Yarncroke might end up being like a pseudo kind of trade deadline acquisition, a self rental, if you will. Not a rental, obviously, but we have no idea when we're going to see him. It's going to be months. Pacioretty, I don't think we're going to see until the new year. I think he's probably out through December. So, and who else is hurt? So you got Nyes, Matthews, Domi, Pacioretty, Yarncroke. Who are the other two? I'm forgetting names. See, this is the problem. There's so many guys injured that I'm actually genuinely forgetting some of the guys that are out. One moment. Let me look. Let me look. Roster, Toronto Maple Leafs. David Kampf. Right, he exists. Don't know what's going on with him. Fourth line center. Dewar, Lorentz have that kind of handled. Who else is out? I guess you could say that Reeves is out with a suspension. You could say that. You could say that. Now, I want everyone to note, no coincidence that the Leafs' fourth line has looked a lot more energetic, explosive, quite frankly, just better since Ryan Reeves got suspended. I said this as a bit, but I wasn't joking. The longer the Reeves suspension was, the better it would be for the Leafs. You could have given him a lifetime ban, and that would have been 2 seasons, because he's under contract next year as well, of better fourth line play. Because why would you ever scratch someone for Ryan Reeves? I'm sorry. Reeves has not been... I think the play on Nurse was obviously his most notable play of the season because, he catches Nurse in the head, gets himself a 5-game suspension. But it's not like he's been laying hits all season. It's not like he's been fighting. Ryan Reeves had been doing largely nothing before that. So we got, is he eligible to return on the 4th? So you have Florida on Wednesday, Tampa on Saturday, then Chicago on, what day is the 2nd? Monday, Tuesday, next week. And then on the 4th, he's eligible to return. So we'll see. I don't know. A few more games of a good fourth line. Enjoy them. Aside from that, Joseph Wool looked good in this game. The penalty kill, largely good in this game. I will say Wool had one save that was really funny where I think it might have been off a face-off. And he goes to reach out with his glove and he's holding his glove out. He's like, I got it. And then he realized he kind of overplayed his hand. And then his whole bottom half just kind of swiveled and he kicked out the leg last second to get the save. It's really good save, honestly, but he kind of put himself in that mess. Now I know, some people have been critical of Joseph Wool's play so far this season and, I get it, but, looks pretty good now. He certainly looks like a starting caliber goalie. The great thing is the Leafs have 2 goalies that have been playing good. 2 goalies that have been over a .920 save percentage. Spectacular. Part of that's manufactured with the system being so good at limiting high danger chances. You got to save the shots that you face, though. And both goalies have done a good job of that. I imagine that Stolarz will play on Wednesday. Now, it'll be a week and a half between games for Stolarz. So, if the Panthers score one early on Wednesday, I won't be surprised. I also understand giving Wool this game because at the end of the day, coming in, this was Wool's 7th start. Stolarz has 12. Obviously, you're not going to get to 41-41. You want those two to generally be pretty close in games played, though. If if Joseph Wool plays 35, Stolarz plays 35-40, and you have Hildeby playing however many other games there are, you're all right. Now, obviously the Leafs have good goaltending depth. Archer Akhtiamov, I don't know how to pronounce that name yet. Yeah, but Marley's goalie comes in, had another shutout. I think he has 2 shutouts in 7 or 8 games, I think. That looks like a legit prospect, right? Hildeby looks like a legit prospect. Matt Murray is your Martin Jones of this year, where if you need a veteran call-up, that's who you call, right? If Wool or Stolarz go down for an extended period of time, Murray gets the call. If it's something where, hey, they're going to miss 2 games, Hildeby gets the call because he won't need waivers. So you have to feel good about the goaltending depth, both for this year and the long-term outlook. It looks like the Leafs have a starter of the future in Joseph Wool, a co-starter of the present with Stolarz, at very least, backup of the future in Dennis Hildeby or Artur Akhtiamov. You know who I mean, right? And again, Murray is your stopgap, fill in if you need it. Emergency, break in case of emergency. That's Matt Murray. So you have 5 goalies that you're comfortable with in a pinch. Hard to complain. Hard to complain about that. Very hard to complain about that. So I'll transition us into our overtime. There we go. I'll transition us into our overtime segment. At this point, I would request any questions that you have about the Toronto Maple Leafs, whether it's concerning this game or long-term outlook, short-term outlook, whatever questions you may have. This is the time to ask them. This is the dedicated segment of the show for your questions. Now, Sam, I'm actually my buddy Sam in the chat giving me some flack because he's a big Matt Murray guy, and I said he was the break in case of emergency. Everything I said is what I feel. That's all I'll say. That's my opinion, man. That's my opinion. Matt Murray is the break in case of emergency guy. Do with that information what you will. Now, as we get to the tail end of the show here, just a reminder, hit that like button and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Subscribe to the Game Over Network as well. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, make sure you hit that follow button and leave a rating as well. Now, as I wait for questions, if you guys have any, I just want to quickly highlight this. So I mentioned this briefly, but the Leafs now have a 3-point advantage on the rest of the Atlantic. They have 28 points. Panthers have 25 in the same amount of games. So, 3 points on them. Sabres have 23 in the same amount of games. Boston has 23 in one more game played. Tampa has 22 points in only 19 games. So Tampa has 2 games in hand. They can't pass the Leafs, but you expect them to pass Buffalo and Boston with those games in hand, especially Boston. 3 games in hand, very unlikely Tampa loses 3 in a row. So the thing I want to focus on with that, the Atlantic is vulnerable. And not necessarily in the sense that, this is the Leafs' year to win the Stanley Cup. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge in April and hopefully beyond. What I will say is the division looks vulnerable for the regular season. If there was ever a year for the Leafs to win the Atlantic, it is as wide open as it could possibly be right now. And the funny part is, this is the funny part, right? If I look at the standings, look at wild card, currently in a wild card spot, Boston, which would be funny, but given the fact that you expect the Metro to pass the Leafs, right? Carolina has 29 points in 20 games. Washington has 27 and 20. New York the Rangers, have 25-19. If the Leafs won the division and ended up getting a more difficult first round matchup, that would be the most peak Leafs thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, that would be the most peak Leafs thing ever. Finally win the division, draw the Rangers in round one. Now, obviously, like, I have opinions about the Rangers. They are definitely Sturkin merchants. But they're a threat, man. They're a threat. How long does Alex Nylander stay up? I hate to burst the bubble here. He's probably the one that goes back down when Matthews comes back. And if not when Matthews comes back, when Nyes comes back. I don't think, like, fun story. Who else would you send down right now? I'd rather Grebenkin than Nylander. Alex. I'd rather Grebenkin than Alex. I'd rather Minton than Alex right now just because he plays center. So I'm willing to bet he's back down by this time next week. Maybe he plays Wednesday. He's probably demoted by Sunday. So, I don't know. I will say, fun story, the Nylander brothers. I don't know if you guys haven't seen, I encourage you to go seek out the Leaf Blueprint moment. They posted on Twitter. It was on the broadcast too, but such a heartwarming little video with William and Alex, in the car, kind of talking about what it was like for Alex to get called up and for both of them to be able to play with each other on the same team. They played on the same line multiple times tonight. Almost connected on a goal. Obviously, Nylander scores William Nylander scores the breakaway goal with Alex on the ice. Fun story. It's fun. Can't wait for Brad to trade Mitch for Kadri. Hey, if the Flames are willing to trade, let's be real. That trade they would take, but I'm not holding out hope for a Kadri reunion because I do not have faith that Murray Edwards in Calgary would be willing to trade with Brad Treliving, barring a massive overpayment. So don't hold out hope. Anyways, looks like that's all we got for questions. So I'm going to wrap up the show here. If you have any last second questions, you have a second. But make sure you like the stream video, or if you're listening on podcasting platforms, give us a follow there. Subscribe to Game Over Toronto, the Game Over Network. You can find me on Twitter at Zach Payne 41. You can find me on Blue Sky at Zach Payne 41. I don't really use Blue Sky, but I'm there if you I know there's been a mass exodus of people from Twitter, so if you're on Blue Sky, check me out, Zach Payne 41. I'll post occasionally. I'll try my best. So yeah, make sure you follow the show. Follow everyone associated with it. Dominic Jones, Lauren Williamson, Josh Ruckstuhl, who did the Game On stuff. I think we're still figuring out what to do with that. I don't know. We might have an update for you soon. But yeah, have a great rest of your day. I know it's late on a Sunday, especially in the East Coast. Leafs don't play till Wednesday, so we have a bit of time off again. It's a really weird part of the schedule. And don't get used to the Saturdays off, because that is the only Saturday that the Leafs will have off until the Four Nations Cup. And that will then be the only other Saturday off for the rest of the season. So anyways, have a great rest of your night, guys. Thank you so much for joining the stream. Always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.